Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into one of the most notorious, absolutely run-ending boss fights in gaming history. Seriously, if you've ever attempted a low-level or Soul Level 1 run in Dark Souls, you know exactly what's waiting for you, down in the pitch-black depths of the Abyss. It's a fight that tests your build, your patience, and your grasp of the game's hidden mechanics.
Okay, let's dive into this by challenging the biggest lie the game tells you, which is literally right there in the boss's name. I mean, you step into the Abyss expecting a royal quartet, right? But the truth is, it's way more complicated than that, and honestly, a whole lot more dangerous.
So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover the Myth of 4, the DPS race clock, gearing up for battle, the tanking strategy, and finally, the dodging alternative. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The Myth of 4.
Yes, you heard that right. 5. The game literally calls them the Four Kings, but here's the kicker. If your damage output is too low and you take too long to defeat them, the game will actually throw up to 5 distinct rates at you at the exact same time. They share one big overall boss health bar, but they pop out of the darkness as individual enemies. So you could find yourself fighting a 5th Four King just because the battle dragged on. And you know, this fascinating quirk actually ties directly into the game's development history. Get this. Data miners actually dug into the game files and uncovered some wild cut content revealing a character named Undead King Jar Eel. He's wearing armor that is basically identical to the Four Kings and looks like this sort of uncorrupted version of one of them. The community theory is that he was meant to be a mini-boss you fight earlier in the New Londo ruins. It really just goes to show that the whole concept of strictly Four Kings was always a pretty loose idea during development.
And of course, the Dark Souls community had an absolute field day with this cut content. As one Reddit user brilliantly joked about his backstory, he put eels inside of jars. All the other undead thought it was revolutionary and decided to make him the king. Another person chimed in that, well, the eels started rotting, which is exactly why he got dethroned. It's always great to have a good laugh about this stuff, because let me tell you, the mechanics of the actual fight are absolutely brutal.
Section 2. The DPS race clock.
So the crucial point is that this entire fight revolves around one singular number, 45. Every 45 seconds, a new king spawns into the arena. This one mechanic completely dictates how you have to play the fight. This is absolutely not a boss where you can just safely hide behind a shield and poke at them for 10 minutes. No way. It is a frantic, high-stakes race against the clock. You have got to defeat the current wraith right in front of you before that 45-second timer expires, or else you are going to quickly find yourself double or even triple teamed in the dark.
Just take a look at the mathematical wall low-level players are up against here. On a standard new game, the Kings share a combined health pool of 9,504 HP. But if you step into New Game Plus, that health pool skyrockets to over 16,000 HP. Now, keeping in mind that low-level players might only be doing around, say, 200 to 300 damage a swing, maximizing your damage output within those tiny 45-second windows becomes the ultimate puzzle.
Section 3. Gearing up for battle. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when we look at the community-tested damage values. The raw numbers just don't lie. A player actually loaded up a save specifically to test different weapon types on this boss. Now, while the Kings are weak to both fire and lightning, a standard fire plus 10 weapon hits for 552 damage, but a lightning plus 5 weapon beats it out at 600 damage. But if you are daring enough to carry 10 soft humanity into the Abyss with you, a Chaos plus 5 weapon tops the chart at 629 damage. Still, for most of us, lightning is the safest bet for maximum, consistent outplay.
But hey, offense is only half the battle, right? You absolutely need an anti-magic loadout. The Kings deal massive magic damage, even on their basic melee sword swings, so the community highly recommends slapping on the Crest Shield for its high magic block. But you want an even better, somewhat hidden secret? Farm the Dark Wraith enemies for the Dark Hand. The Dark Hand has this amazing special property that blocks 100% of the Four Kings' magic attacks. Throw in a highly upgraded Pyromancy Flame for casting Great Combustion, and boom, you have a perfectly optimized kit.
Section 4. The tanking strategy.
For a lot of players, the best answer to the Abyss is to just become an immovable object. The steps here are actually totally counterintuitive for a game that's literally famous for dodging. Basically, you intentionally equip the heaviest armor possible, like Havel's or the Stone set. Then, you cast the Iron Flesh Pyromancy, completely abandoning your ability to run or dodge. After that, you simply walk right up, spam your attacks or pyromancies, and chug your Estus flasks to heal right through their hits. You are just letting your massive poise prevent you from being staggered.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the bizarre spatial mechanic that makes this strategy work in the first place. In this specific fight, closer is actually safer. If you are physically hugging the boss, their sword attacks register as hitting you with the hilt rather than the actual blade, and that drastically reduces the damage you take. It literally rewards you for staying aggressively right in their face while you tank the hits.
Section 5. The dodging alternative.
When we put these two opposing philosophies side by side, the contrast is pretty stark. The Iron Flesh tank completely ignores weight to absorb hits, relying heavily on Estus to survive. On the flip side, the Fast Roll Dodger keeps their equip load super low to maintain fast or mid-rolls. They are relying purely on mobility and invincibility frames to make sure they never take that damage in the first place. It's high risk for sure, but highly rewarding for players who really want to master the boss's attack patterns.
So for the dodgers out there, the community has completely nailed down the exact spatial tactics you need. First off, never lock on. This gives you the situational awareness you need to see attacks coming in from the dark. Second, constantly strafe and roll to the left, because almost all of the king's attacks are telegraphed in that direction. And finally, when you see that dreaded grab attack animation start up, immediately roll backwards 2 to 3 times to get yourself completely out of that hitbox.
Okay, before we wrap up, I have to share the absolute ultimate pro tip the community discovered. When you deplete a king's individual health, it starts this long dying animation where it slowly fades away into the dark. If you keep swinging your weapon and hitting that fading model, you will actually deal overkill damage. And get this, that damage actually counts against the massive shared boss health bar. If you optimize this overkill damage, you can drain the main health pool so quickly that the fourth king never even gets a chance to spawn. It's a real game changer.
And there you have it. The lore, the terrifying spawn timers, the optimized weapon stats, and the absolute best community strategies. We have officially demystified the Abyss. So I leave you with this final thought. Now that you know the math and the myths, when you face that ticking 45-second clock, will you choose to tank the hits, or will you dodge the dark to conquer the four kings? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and good luck out there.